Hi there, beloved Ascension pioneers, and welcome to my Ascension update video. In this video, I want to talk about what is happening energetically with our planet because it's going through a major shift and how we can adjust on all levels. So the first message that I received is that at this time, because the energy is so fluctuating, we have different energy patterns coming in, and we are most easily attuned to all of this by being very flexible. So we need to be very flexible, which also means in our body. I mentioned last week, I think, that I've recently seen a video presentation of Sri Chinmoy, which was this guru living in America, and he was also supporting this physical movement in the body. I think he was a marathon runner, and he supported this training and how it's important that our body is very much in physical attunement so that it's strong, it's flexible, because a lot of our empowerment comes through the body. This week I'm recording a self-mastery course as well. It's going to be on self-empowerment through understanding our physical ascension process, and it's going to talk about the importance of the spine, so the spine movement, and what does it really mean for our ascension, how we work with our spine to integrate our truth, to integrate our empowerment, the source of our power. So stay connected for that if you're interested in moving deeper into your self-mastery, because to be in our self-empowerment means to really be fully in our bodies. And that means that if we feel in any sorts of way weak in our body, we feel like we're not free in the same level than we are when our body's flexible and full. So this week's spirit really guided me to start training. And I know it sounds funny when you say I'm in training mode, but we're basically all the time in training mode. So what's taking place is that there's a lot of activity because there was a lot of new stimulation and we received new body symptoms. These symptoms are going on since this year began, actually, and for some of us even a bit prior to that, because there's this convergence happening, and I'm gonna, like I've explained to you before, we're gonna make a video, this cosmic convergence, and what does it really mean. And a lot of us were feeling that strongly in our bodies like never before. And this mostly because I was asking, about this, and nothing really came. So it feels like it's not something that comes from the old, like cleansing and old symptoms and this anything dramatic from the old. But what it feels is that there's almost like this reaction, this response to all this new energy we're receiving. And of course, because Earth also increased in its frequency, and we know that the Schumann's frequency increased, and that's scientifically proven. It means also that our bodies need to adjust. So the easiest way to adjust is become more physically empowered also in the body, along all the inner energetic work of alignment that we're doing, because we can no longer separate spirit and form, or say I'm just physically active, I'm just physically exercising and practicing and training in my body without the spiritual practices, or just meditating, just staying in the vertical without a horizontal. That needs to meet, that's coming together now. So Spirit guided me this week to start moving the energy forward even more. This is a great week that starts to self-empowerment on a new level, as well as this alchemy, the synergy of us coming together in a greater sense. Because you receive soul alchemy, you get soul alchemy when two or more substances come together, and maybe they create this collision, and there's going to be a bit of resistance, but then resistance, through that acceptance process, through flow, it starts to move into a state of fusion, and that fusion will start to create what I received through Spirit is called triangulation. As you know, you have the energy of the two moving together, receiving the third. It's called triangulation. Triangulation is that energy which is the mystical, it's the unknown, it's always unpredictable. You don't know what you're going to get as a result. We have certain chemistry tests, what we all had in grade school, these experiments we did in chemistry, and they put us in a laboratory and we needed to do these exercises. And even though there was a process of the formula, different students performing these different tasks still received different results, because you cannot always, let's say, control the outcome, because there's going to be maybe different surroundings, different conditions, or different people performing this. So it's all about that third aspect, which is the unpredictable. And as we're going through Ascension, we're just adjusting to that unpredictable, to the mystical, to the shifting, to the unknown. and that triangulation which actually is created, and that triangulation actually also represents in a greater sense the sense of free will. So you have, let's say, two components or more that is destined. You know what you're getting. That's the control variables. And then you receive something that will be a creation in its own, which will have its own consciousness. And you don't always know what's going to come out of it. And then evolution comes from it. So there's a strong sense of evolution being present when there's this triangulation. So in our body, what Spirit showed me is we need to adjust now through this triangulation process that's really coming in with this new energy influx. So the physicality movement, it's really important, but then to merge it with our energetic exercise is no longer saying, okay, I'm just this physical body, or I'm just this spiritual being doing my spiritual practices and the physical doesn't exist. So also, you know, in the old traditions, it was a lot of these teachings, you need to exclude everything. You needed to move to the top of the mountain or go in your cave and just do your guru practices and forget about the world out there. So just really moving into that light, and nothing else exists, and you no longer want to be a part of this greater world and what's happening. You're just all about you. But this new energy, this new earth, is a paradigm where it's not really a paradigm even when you look at it from the bigger perspective. It's just this new triangulation that it's unfolding through this great cosmic love, and everything in consciousness observes what's going to take place, and yet it's unpredictable, and yet it's also evolution coming from it. There's growth, there's expansion. So there's no longer just a sense of avoidance or moving just into the spirit, but merging together, the fusion of spirit and soul. And I've talked about the soul so long because the soul experiences in this form, in this body. You know, at this level we're in this body form. It might be different body forms and different levels of consciousness and creation experience, but here we are now. And this part of experience also includes this body, so the fusion will take place, this alchemy will take place by us really moving into this fusion of all the components and creating something new. So let's get more practical. Is what Spirit showed me is that exercise is really important, and training so that the body stays in balance. So let's say, because I'm a runner myself, so that's why I love the Sri Chinmoy video, because I really love running as well, and every part of the season training begins more actively for me, and I'm active all year long, but there's different levels to it. So what Spirit showed me is, let's say you do certain part of exercises, but only one part of your body is more involved. So if you run, that might be your legs, and the arms are not so much. So I started using these again. You know, these are the weights for your hands. So you just wrap them around, and you can run with them, and it's very good. So that the body is more in balance, so that the energy, how you work with it, is equally distributed. So any kind of other exercise, whatever we're doing, needs to be balanced. A lot of times in these physical activities that we know on these lower planes, it's very imbalanced, and people only push the weights, or you know, they only do something, and we will have a lot of body symptoms that will show us that maybe that's not the right way. It's not the way of the middle path. So from extremes to being only into asceticism, forgetting everything and all of that, that's no shifting, because we're really realizing that we can work with all the components, and that this triangulation means that we are co-creating with different things, and we're experimenting, and each time we're being shown something new. But as the energy increases, our body and its stability and its empowerment also needs to increase. So this is on this note, so it's going to be more shared in my Self-Empowerment Mastery course, so stay tuned for that. But on another level, I also want to share about what's taking place internally, because there's this great shifting and leveling up with this new. It's almost like, again, this energy of a clean blank slate. A lot of us are feeling like a part of the mission is complete, and there was a sense of completion. Last week, all week, I was receiving messages of completion, and after every completion, usually I'm guided to take a retreat, to just stabilize this, to move into the new, so that sometimes what Source guided me is that it's really necessary to unplug from all the external. There's a lot of people who are just reading all the time articles, even about Ascension. Remember, Ascension isn't happening in your chair as you're sitting behind your computer. It happens in your daily life. It happens when you physically partake in the living creatrix of all life. So it's really important to sometimes forget all the books, all the information, everything that you're doing, and just move into that space of unity, because you're already tapping into all that is, and you're receiving all this guidance from all the levels. Sometimes we don't trust, so we think we need this information, we need to read that book, we need to watch that video. And this, again, when this blank slate energy comes, it's almost like an invitation to forget everything for a while. This doesn't mean we will exclude ourselves. It just means that we will partake with the external through breathing the internal first and then moving out again. So ascension is a threefolded process. And I've shared this many times before. So you open up, there's a space of receiving, you create this space, you create this vacuum space, the divine light enters, and then it moves through your body, and then again it rises up. That's that resurrection energy. You are reawakened, you are reliving a life in a new sense, in a new way. So this new wave enters through you, and then you just a conscious vehicle that ripples that out. You become the emanation of that light that entered you, that you created that space for. So again, it's a triangulation energy. It's a three. Three is the most sacred of the number, Holy Trinity. And everything always happens in threes, even synchronicities, how they follow into our lives. It's always happening in three waves. So yeah. About this blank slate is a lot of times in this period we will be afraid to move from that external information, because we have a sense that as long as we're still holding on to that, we have a feeling that there's something in our lives like fullness. Because sometimes I see people are so afraid to step in the void of nothingness, maybe not even receiving any guidance for a while. I remember this movie called Serendipity, and it talks about destiny and how we're all, making choices, and yet we're still in this cosmic web of universal destined, not predictions, but things that are just having a greater sense when we walk our path. So there was the saying when a man said, but what if even the absence of signs is a sign? So everything speaks to you, everything is a sign, and sometimes this void is created for us to really, really be present with what's going to come next. And we're no longer needed to fear that void, because a lot of times we were so much distracting ourselves, and we still want always to be guided, always to be told something, always to have advice, always to know everything, instead of just feeling that the universal pulse of that cosmic love will always bring us what we need to know. We're always going to receive when it's time to receive, because we're always in a receptive state. So the important thing is to just hold that receptive state, open to that divine light, let it enter, then ripple it out in your own way as you're guided to. And this void is actually a space of such potential, and I've shared this so many times before. And as long as we're still holding on to everything external, reading every single article coming our way, people sometimes send me these things. What do you think about this teacher? What do you think about this material? Look, I don't know. I'm not them. I don't do that work. I'm focused on my things, and it's not my job to really evaluate someone and give them a mark and say, wow, this person does that okay, they don't do that well. It's not my purpose. It's my purpose to really be connected with my source and conduct and transduce this energy in my own way. So I hope you understand if I don't answer these things, because they're not really my place to answer. And my place is to be in this vortex that is my own. So when we create this inner vortex in the void, then so much will come forth. And then we'll see, wow, so much is possible. Just this weekend, on Saturday, I was just guided to only rest, not even do anything. We really need to listen to our bodies. Sometimes we're going to be very active in training mode, exercising, then another day it's going to be rest, integrate. There's so much integration happening this time. So I was just sitting here on the beach, lying, well, I wasn't really lying down, but I was just here all day, writing so much came forth. I couldn't even believe it. It was for hours and hours. I was just writing, and so much came through about this cosmic convergence and this process, and a greater galactic understanding of what's taking place in the bigger picture of all. And I really wish to share this. I hope I'm going to get it as condensed as I can, because there's a lot of things in this one course of cosmic convergence. And it's really important, like I've said, to not fear that void. A lot of times people have guidance, they speak with their guides, they have ascension guides, and when we enter that new level, guides will shift. A lot of times new guides will enter. This is happening now with this mastering graduation on this level. It doesn't end. We're just moving to a new one. In the beginning, it's more like, okay, so what's there? What's out there for me? And that's why we need to be open, not, you know, constantly bombarded with information, waiting for the next thing, waiting for the next event. It's going to come. But we need to sometimes just patiently sit and observe and see what is really entering our field through guidance, that we will know it. And when the guides are shifting, a lot of times we'll feel this blank. And it's not that guides leave us, it's just that we outgrow something, we enter this new phase. There's also, just this lady made a video about this week, and I've seen this and it was a confirmation for what I received myself, that when we feel this blank, like we're not having any of these communications and we're not feeling really guided, or, you know, we don't know how to move forward, it's not that guides abandoned us, it's that either you've walked into a state when you're becoming your own guide completely. You're still going to have guides there, but they're going to be only there when you specifically ask. They're not going to be there if you're going to need, you know, any sorts of like, okay, can I do this? Should I do this? This is very beginning level. This is very basic. So on this ascension level, you're becoming your own master guide, your own teacher from within, and your I am presence is constantly in communion with you, in communion with your I am presence. But what is here important is that you know there's these beings there, but they're more walking with you in a sense of brotherhood. There's no more such of these roles anymore, like I'm the guide and you're the student. But a lot of times the silent phase is there because the guides are just waiting for us to show more mastery, to kind of step up. A lot of times it's because we're passing these initiations, so we need to do the test. You know, the metaphor the lady gave in her video presentation was that when you go to school and everything you've learned, you're doing the test, and teacher's silent when you have a test, so they don't say anything. They're not going to give you the answers, and you're the one who's really seeing how much you've learned. Although that's very theoretical, but here it's very practical. Sometimes in life, and you're afraid to move forward if it's something you don't know exactly what, and all the guidance is always the same, and it's, but what do you want? What do you desire from that core of the soul? Not through egoic senses, but through the very nature of your soul, which is that pull towards something which is such a strong calling, and it's already there. So they're just silent because they're finally waiting for you to get it. And one of the examples could also be that you're stubborn and you're bumping your head against the wall, want to do it your way, and they're just saying, okay, then see how that feels, experience it, but we're still here when you're going to make the decision to align further. But it's not negative, it just means that you've chosen to bypass it a bit because you want to research this area as well, or you just want to have an experience of how that other thing feels, and it's okay. It's nothing to be judged, or you're not ever doing anything wrong. Everything will always make sense. If not here, then when you really integrate that higher level of your greater understanding, it will. And when we have this shift in this guidance system, it means that we're just graduated, and it's good because we don't need, on a certain level, nobody to give us advice or to share things about us, because we're so strong in our knowing. A lot of times you might feel lonely because, you know, you might feel everybody else is receiving certain guidance and you're saying, why am I not? It's because maybe it just means that you're so strong in your knowing that you don't need it that way. So ask for the things that maybe just reveal a greater sense of trust in yourself and the guidance you're receiving, and just really trust it. And I made a mastery course on really mastering divine trust when you receive this guidance. And the next thing I want to talk about is, again, something I've noticed recently about archetypes. And you know, I've shared many times about archetypes too. And when we're still learning about the self and different waves of expression and what's taking place, and, you know, from the most macro to the micro, it's all actually the same. It's just same things always unfolding. and playing out. You know, we might say, wow, this is happening on a planetary level, and then it's happening also on an internal level, and then on a collective consciousness level, but then it's also happening on a, I don't know, star system level, and then when the galaxy, and all these levels are actually from the micro to the macro, as above, so below. But these archetypes, many times, they show us what's unfolding, and yet what's really important here is with this blank slate, again, it's our importance of not being attached to these archetypes, such as you might feel you're being put to have a mission, to be of service. And that's good, because that drives you forward. It always makes you feel very passionate about something, and you're very proactive. But a lot of times when you associate with it too much, when you attach to that, you only see yourself as that, and you forget about other parts of you. So we have a intrinsic connection with all archetypes, with all choices, with all experiences, and yet the moment we define, and you know, that's why the closest word that I could find to the people who are really paving the way for this ascension is ascension pioneers. And although even that is just a name, because it's very important not to be put in a box. And you know, thinking outside of the box is even only needed when there is a box. When there's no box, you don't need it, because you're always thinking and feeling through all that is, just your beingness. So what we're moving into is this source state, this blank slate of pure feeling in your divine origin self, in your creation self, trusting that it's coming from there, not needing to attach, well, this is this archetype in me, or this is that in me, and you know, I'm a spiritual warrior, or I'm an indigo, or I'm this and that, and then becoming too much involved in that, instead of feeling yourself that you have all the capabilities, you have all the resources, all the tools are within you, and you don't need to just play one archetype. You know, there's a lot of them on this planet, and in the greater galactic scheme of things, they were planted even in the collective consciousness so that things will be playing out the way certain groups want it. So they had their own interest in mind. So we have a lot of these, what we would call here in this dualistic perspective, we would call negative archetypes, such as a martyr, a tormentor, you know, a villain. So we have this, you know, and then a victim, prostitute, all these archetypes. And they are or were or will be playing out up until the point when we really come in our source beingness, when we really enter our spirit state. We become nothing but pure conscious conduit for spirit, and we invite the supreme light to emanate through us, to radiate through us, to always be one with us as it truly is, without us choosing only one fraction and being too glued to that perspective. So the greatest perspective we can hold in our vehicle is just being the child of the divine light, a bearer of light, a being of immense cosmic love. And then everything else we're doing, we're engaging with, that's just an experience. It's just an experience. However real it is in that moment, it's still just an experience. I'm not a spiritual warrior. You know, my job is not Ascension Pioneers. It's just a part of what I do, what I like to do. It's not all that I am. If I would be attached to that, if I were attached to that, then what would happen is, if one day it was gone, I'd be like, wow, my life has no purpose now. This is gone. Ascension Pioneers is gone. I have no purpose. I feel so blank. I don't have any meaning, so I better just go off somewhere. This can happen. This can happen. A lot of people lose their sense of identity when they lose, I don't know, a job or relationship, and they feel, I'm meaningless now. I have nothing to do. Even if we're too much pioneering all the time, we're just in the doing mode, we always want to reach for the next thing. We never take the proper downtime to sit with our creation and to feel it, to radiate it out. Then again, the same thing can happen. One day you're not guided to do anything, you're like, now what? I feel so void. I have no purpose because I don't know what to do today. Oh my gosh, you know? And resistance again comes into action. So a great part of self-empowerment is learning integration of all parts of us in unity. And self-empowerment is all about conscious integration. The more integrated being you are, the more you are in your power. Power is nothing negative, it's nothing wrong, there's nothing to be feared of, because when you're in your power, you're not just here like vertically, but also horizontally in your power. And this is what my mastery course will be about. I'm gonna probably publish it this week, so stay tuned. and there's lots more that I could share, but I need to go home because that's how I feel. And as always, really so much love, wisdom, and power, and I hope you're gonna have a great experience of all that is shifting, of all that is new, and yet it's only new because we feel it so, and yet on another level it just is. It just is. So take care, and I'll talk to you next time.